everybody? Welcome back to a Puncher's Chance. It has been way too long. I know a lot of you have been talking about it. You've been clamoring for it. Well, it's here. We're back. Listen, we had some sickness. Steve had sick daughter, sick wife. Then he got sick. We had some traveling. The beautiful 4th of July we had to celebrate. But we are back in the chair, ready to talk some UFC 264 and a great card this is going to be.
This is like that scene in Wedding Crashers when they're like, what's better than wedding season? What's better than a Conor McGregor fight week? Nothing.
Absolutely.
Exactly. This is where we're at right now.
Listen, you all know how much we love Conor McGregor. So if this isn't a reason for Puncher's Chance to come back with a fury, this is it.
I mean, it had to happen, right?
Absolutely.
It had to make its way. Yep.
Well, listen, we're starting off the show with a guy named Sugar Sean O'Malley already. As always, guys, you can play along at home, this time with a little bit of a prize. I have given away a $25 gift card already to a lucky winner, Mr. Jonah Wiseman. He won. But another $25 gift card is in the balance. If you beat Steve or I, you get two options here. I mean, all the jewels are in your court, right? Like you have all the opportunity. If you beat Steve or I in our UFC pick'em this week, all you got to do is tag us, post it on your story. If you beat us, a $25 gift card to the very first person that I see that beats us will get that prize. So make sure you're playing at home. But yeah, Sugar Sean O'Malley is starting off the show along with a newcomer, a guy that literally has not even been in the UFC before. A 9-4 record though, so he's not too terrible. But Chris Matuno, Steve, what do you got going on in this fight?
I mean, this is a nightmare situation for the UFC.
Yeah.
You got Sugar Sean, who went down obviously against Cheeto Vera, had the injury coming back. We've had late replacements into this one, and that's how we get to Chris Patino in this one. Vegas has Sugar Sean at a minus 950, which is outrageous.
It's got to be one of the biggest
biggest
ones, right? Like one of the biggest ones. It's got to be pretty close to one of the biggest ones in history.
Minus 950 is basically saying Chris shouldn't even show up.
Yeah.
I've definitely got Sugar Sean in this one. I got him big. I think he's out to prove something at this point. And I think that this is going to be his road to redemption is going to start now. I mean, Cheeto, obviously, he had a loss in his last fight. So I think a win here, maybe another one, sets up a good rematch for them.
Well, that's the thing is Sean O'Malley, a lot of people, at least I personally feel, is being really disrespected when it comes to belt talk here. He's put on some after the injury. He's put on some masterful performances, and he is one of the bigger stars right up there, with a lot of these other big name guys. So I'm with you. Sugar Sean should dominate this fight pretty simply. Here's the factors going against Chris here. A, he's fighting Sugar Sean. That's a pretty big factor. B, he's fighting Sugar Sean in a sold-out T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. C, he's fighting him on a Conor McGregor fight card, so you know that every fighter is going to be bringing their A game. It's like the whole deck is stacked against this guy. And listen, I appreciate the fact that he stepped in so that we could keep Sugar Sean on this card, because there was talks of maybe Sugar Sean dropping out because they couldn't find an opponent with all the different injuries. And then he had guys that accepted the fight, but then wanted it at 145, not 135. So with all the problems going around this, we're glad that we get to see a Sugar Sean O'Malley fight. He's got the beautiful dyed hair. I think it's purple and orange with a little bit of like a blue hint to it. So he's got he's got the hair flowing again. But Sugar Sean's going to dominate this fight. There's just no way around that. Moving on, somebody we've talked about before on this show, and I'm not going to butcher her name this time, guys. Listen, we practiced before this show started, right? It was like what you do in a preschool. Like I recited the same words back to him. Yana Kunitskaya is fighting again against Irene Aldana. Now, I don't know much about Irene Aldana, just a little bit what I've looked up, but Yana dominated her last fight, looked great. I'm going Yana here just because of what I saw in her last fight, and because honestly, Irene doesn't really pop off the page to me like Yana does. But Yana's in one of those things where she's actually the underdog, which kind of shocks me. But from her last fight, I liked what I saw.
Yeah, no, she's definitely improving and showing a lot of step up in her game. I'm actually going to take Irene in this one just because I feel like she's a little bit more tested, a little bit more durable. And I think that she's got the experience to get in there and get it done.
Yeah.
But I mean, Irene is a minus 122.
Yeah.
Like
it's kind of a 50-50.
yeah, it's as close to a pick 'em as you get, and the fact that we have to get some different picks between me and you means
Yeah.
they'll go Irene on this one. Um, and let's just be honest here, like Carlos Condit's on the undercard, Nico Price is on the undercard, Ryan Hall's on the
Nico's an
undercard.
exciting one. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of fights that they can slide in here. So these ladies have a lot of. This is a prime time opportunity for one of them to really make a name for
Yeah.
themselves.
Well, and both, I mean, they're within, 12-6, 14-5, so very similar records. So it's one
Mm-hmm.
of those things. One of these ladies is going to rise to the top. I just hope we get an exciting fight here. Listen, I don't want an early finish with these two. I know they're both very good at striking, so I hope it's an all-out war because honestly, a lot of people don't appreciate the women's fight game, but if you can get an all-out war with
Yeah.
women, it's honestly sometimes a lot more vicious than some of the men's fights that are out there. So I'm excited for this one. Moving on, the most hated man in all of the UFC, Mr. Greg Hardy. And I don't know if he's just hated so much by me and everybody. It seems like all the fans. But Greg Hardy versus Taya Tuivasa. Steve, what do you have going on in this one?
This is, I mean, everything in my head says Tai Tuivasa all day. He's got
Right?
experience. He is I don't want to say natural fighter, but this was his job. He wasn't
Yes.
trying to be an NFL player. He was trying to be a fighter.
Yes.
That being said, Greg Hardy has improved greatly. He fought a lot last year,
Yes, he did.
including fighting against Volkov, who's a top 5 guy, and really got it handed to him. But at the end of that fight, I said, he really kind of showed that he can kind
He
of
can
hang in
hang.
there a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah.
I believe he's out with America Top Team down in Florida. You got Greg Brown down there or Mike Brown down there. So I really feel like Greg Hardy, with time off, with time to develop, has a real good shot to be my upset on this one. I think Greg Hardy takes Tai Tuivasa. The game plan to beat Greg Hardy is simple: use footwork to get away from him and
Yes.
wrestle the crap out of him. And Tai
Yes.
Tuivasa is not going to do any of those things. So I think Greg Hardy's got a great shot in this one, and I like him to get a finish.
What's interesting to me about Greg Hardy is he reminds me a lot of Kimbo Slice, right? Somebody who is very good at punching, not very good at everything else, but slowly improved. And towards the end, Kimbo Slice was a well-rounded fighter. But like you said,
Yeah.
Greg Hardy not great on the ground, but the guy he's facing is not somebody that's going to try and drag him down to the ground and drag this thing out all over the ground. So I think honestly, I'm with you. Ty's going to kind of walk into Greg Hardy's game with Greg Hardy being off. And like you said, against that Alexander Volkov fight, like you saw that he could take damage from a top 5 guy. You saw that he could last with a top 5 guy without being put out. I'm going to go with the upset here as well. Greg Hardy was actually going to be my sleeper that I thought you were going to get a tie, but I'm going to go Greg Hardy as well. Listen, I hate the guy, and he's not very likable in a lot of his interviews. He's just one of those guys that rubs everybody the wrong way. But I think Ty's going to play right into what Greg Hardy does best, which is just stand there and throw cuffs. And it reminds me very much of an early Kimbo Slice.
And from everything that people talk about him, he's trying to do things the right way.
Yeah.
Where he's in the gym every day. He's working. He's improving. He's being people's training partners. Like he's taking the right steps to get good at what he's doing.
Yeah.
And for that, I can't fault him. The NFL career, that's a whole different ball game, and you can, But if we're going to compartmentalize the two, I think he's got a real good shot here.
Yeah, you can tell, especially in his interviews, he looks a lot more trim. You can even tell in his face. He looks like he's losing that fat that he had, when he was trying to just be a big boy in the NFL. He's looking like a fighter, which, like I said, when I looked at Kimbo Slice and I look at him, it looks very similar in how they worked up. Both were a lot bigger guys coming in, great punchers, not really good at anything else. And I like the evolving that he does. Next up, Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson. Now, I feel like Gilbert Burns is getting kind of disrespected a little bit, right? Like, listen, I'm not saying Gilbert Burns should be dominant in this fight or should be the big favorite here. But I mean, this man was fighting Kamaru Usman, who's maybe pound for pound the best fighter in the world right now from his last couple of performances. A lot of people arguing. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this whole Gilbert Burns kind of feeling like he's getting pushed to the side a little bit here?
So my problem with this is if there's one person I ride harder for than Conor McGregor, it's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I
Yes,
love
it
that
is. Yes, it
guy.
is.
He's the ultimate nice guy. He has got a crazy unorthodox style for modern day UFC.
Yeah.
And he is just a dude that, I mean, how do you not like him?
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue with this fight is you have Gilbert Burns, who is when I say world class jujitsu, I
Yes.
don't mean like world class. I mean like world champion jujitsu, who fell in love with his striking, and got a few knockouts, fancied himself a little bit of a boxer. And if
As
you
they all
play
do.
that game, yeah, as they all do, and if you play that game with Wonder Boy, he is going to put the side of his foot up against your temple real quick. It'll be that Kevin Hart sketch where Gilbert Burns is asking, which one
What
of y'all
happened?
hit
What
me?
happened? Death by an octopus?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you're going to get when you fight Steven Thompson,
Yeah.
Now, if they go in there and Gilbert Burns does his best Vin Diesel and says, "This is Brazil," and takes him down and chokes him out, that is going to be a different story. I think Steven Thompson takes this one, and then sits back and wait.
Yeah.
It's already Kobe and Kamaru has already been announced. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone in that division has a shot of beating Kamaru, it's going to be someone who doesn't let a wrestler come in close and touch him. And that's going to be Wonder Boy.
That's interesting that you point that out, because now I'm thinking about the Kamaru Usman Gilbert Burns fight. We talked about that fight on the show, and our number one thing was, hey, Gilbert Burns needs to just make life a nightmare for Kamaru Usman, throwing him to the ground, get him tired, wear him down. Don't let his best thing, which is of course, his overhand, which is absolutely disgusting, or his straight right hand too. What he did, oh my goodness, his last fight where he had, one of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen. He just let him do that the entire fight. So now that's interesting that you're talking about it, because if Gilbert Burns, like you said, keeps falling in love with trying to trade fists, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is no joke. For some reason, he just went out of a lot of people's minds, and I don't really know why.
Well, he had a little bit of fall off. Obviously, he had the wars with Woodley.
Yes.
And then he kind of got counted out a little bit. I mean, he's getting a little bit older. He's on the backside of his career, probably. And a lot of people just said, like, here's a guy, well, let's bring up Gilbert Burns and Leon Edwards and all these guys that you're like, okay, here's the next wave. And Wonder Boy's like, hold my chocolate milk. Like, I'm here. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Well, and he UFC is just a nightmare matchup.
The UFC is very interesting in that way, in that if you're out of the game, I mean, look at what we're seeing with the whole Derek Lewis interim, title fight. If you're out of the game and if you're refusing to fight, Dana has always said, listen, you don't have to fight. And he's going to keep putting matchups out there. And I found it interesting that Wonder Boy Thompson against Gilbert Burns made it this high on the card. I'm surprised that that's not headlining a UFC fight night, to be honest. But I get why. When you're headlining a big name card like a Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, I think this is a great, great fight and could be the fight of the night, to be honest. I'm going to go Wonder Boy Thompson. The more you're talking to me, you kind of got me convinced. I'm nervous that Gilbert Burns, even though I really like Burns, when he does what he does best, I feel like he's going to try and trade fists. And like you said, with Wonder Boy Thompson, he's one of those just slippery eels. He's going to slip out of it and crack you. And next thing you know, you're sitting on the ground. So I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Stephen Thompson here. And that brings us to the major fight, the big fight that everybody has been talking about, has been messaging me about. I talked about it on the podcast earlier, talking about maybe motivation for these guys. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, with the winner. And I think this is very important for this fight. The winner has a guaranteed title shot. Guaranteed.
Oh, for sure.
It's already been, Dana's already come out earlier this week and said, no matter what, whoever walks away from this fight will be getting a belt shot. Do you think that adds a little bit more motivation to either one of these guys? And what do you open up on with these two guys?
I don't think it adds motivation to either one of the guys. I mean, I think Conor knows you win this, you're getting a belt shot. I think Dustin took this fight knowing that he's going to get a title shot if he wins it.
Yeah.
Because he had the right of first refusal. He was the number one contender. So he said, Chandler and Oliveira, you guys beat each other up. I'm going to go make a ton of money.
It was smart. Very smart. Yeah.
And I'm going to go make a ton of money over here, and then we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
This fight, has got me going. It is going to be phenomenal. Um, and there's so many facets to it. There's so many things that you can look
So
at,
many. Yeah.
Poirier's got, from all accounts, one of the best camps he's ever had. So it's just nightmare level fits he's giving guys right now.
Yeah.
Connor is back with a little bit of his old crew. Because you got to remember, going into the first one, there was still a chance that Connor was going to fight Pacquiao.
Yeah.
So he was heavy boxing going into this. And he is back to some of his MMA coaches, a little bit less boxing. And he is dialed in. You're not seeing a ton of social media posts. There's no Lamborghinis, there's no yachts, there's no Gucci slippers. He is dialed in for this one.
And I find it interesting. He's in America training for this. That's what a lot of people found it. We're talking about it. That's a massive difference from what he usually does. He usually spends all the way up into 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the fight, then comes over to America. No longer. I mean, he's been in America for what, 2 months now, doing all his training stuff.
And he's been here by himself. His wife and kids aren't here.
He purposely wanted his family separated. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have that to throw in the mix as well. It's, he is solely focused on this.
Yeah. And I actually just got done watching his interview with Stephen A. Smith, which, here's the deal. I'm not a big Stephen A. Smith fan. I find him to be one of the most obnoxious talkers when it comes to sports media. One of the best interviews I've heard in a very long time. Conor McGregor seems like a different, composed animal. Like a Conor McGregor that's scary Conor McGregor, not Conor McGregor that when he was first coming in, it was all about his personality. He was trying to sell himself, which is a big part of the UFC. So I got that. But then when he made all of his money, it was boastful Conor McGregor. It's kind of like the Loki series. There's all the different kinds of Lokis going around. It's like the different kind of Conor McGregors. Then you had the boastful Conor McGregor who was, I'm untouchable. I'm one of the best boxers in the world. I went X amount of rounds with Floyd Mayweather. Now you have a very quiet and reserved Conor McGregor, which is a mixture of a little bit of everything. He's still got his boastfulness and cockiness, but everything seems a lot more reserved for Conor, which I found very interesting in his interview. And being married to a sports psychologist, she was watching it with me. She said, wow, he seems like he's really dialed in. I was like, well, I mean, it seems like we're getting a different Conor McGregor. The biggest thing was Conor had some things to fix. Dustin really didn't have a whole lot to fix. And so that can be a good thing and a very bad thing. I actually just talked about this on the show. The difference is what motivation is coming for Conor McGregor. Is Conor McGregor here saying, hey, I'm doing this not for the simple fact that I'm getting a paycheck, not for the simple fact that it's a UFC fight. Am I doing this to knock the other person out and to demoralize another human being, which is when Conor McGregor's at his best? Or is Conor McGregor out here trying to just take another charity fight, which is what he called the second Poirier fight? He said he was just doing it to pay off some charity for him and didn't really have the mindset of, I'm going in here to beat the crap out of this human being. So the friendship element's gone out of this now. And now you're getting a very serious and back to almost edgy Conor McGregor when it comes to Dustin. So I wonder if that hate fuel is going to impact this at all. It's going to be a very interesting fight. What do you think Dustin needs to do this time around that he didn't do the second fight?
I don't think there's anything he needs to do differently. He's kind of come out and said, like, obviously the leg kick is what secured him the win.
Yes.
And he said he's not even throwing leg kicks. He's like, Conor's probably throwing more leg kicks in his training camp than he is, because he knows that was, for lack of a better term, a little bit of a fluke.
Yes.
You're not going to get that again. So I don't think he needs to do anything differently as far as that goes. I think if this goes fourth round, fifth round, this is a Poirier fight. Poirier likes to drag things out in the later rounds, make things a nightmare, everything's sweaty and slippery, and there's just a mass amount of just leather being thrown. That's the Poirier fight. If this goes inside of 2, maybe early 3, this is definitely a Conor fight.
So I do think
I think Poirier has to drag it.
Do you think that there's a chance that you could see a Nate Diaz Conor McGregor 2, where Conor McGregor does want it to kind of go the distance and isn't trying to just throw bombs and wants to make it an all-out war?
So I think I think there's a possibility of him being able to drag it out. The problem is Connor is a freight train. So we talked a lot about like Cowboy. Cowboy is a slow starter, and you don't want to
Very.
see him in that third, fourth, and fifth rounds.
Yes.
Connor is a tidal wave. He comes in round 1 and 2, and kind of fades throughout.
Yes.
So I mean, Connor knows what he is at this point. He
Well,
is
he
going to
he
come in
rocked
there.
he rocked
Oh, for
Dustin
sure.
Poirier
Yeah,
in the
he
first
rocked
round last
Poirier.
time. Yeah.
Hmm.
And if it wasn't for
Yeah.
Conor McGregor even said, he goes, I should have advanced it, and he didn't. What he you and I didn't really even notice it until he talked about it earlier, because he said he's watched the fight probably 15, 20 times. And he said he rocked him, and instead of
Hmm.
pushing it, which is the same thing, it kind of drives me crazy because Nate Diaz, when he in his last fight rocked him and then kind of waited, that half second can be the difference in them hitting the canvas and then them recovering, and then you inevitably got knocked out in the second round. Conor did. So if Conor can land his shots like he did in the first round, he needs to just push all the way through. He can't be stepping back. He
Yeah.
can't give him any space. This has got to be a Conor Fury for 2 straight rounds, and I think Dustin would go down as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think, and obviously I don't want to take anything away from Dustin.
Yeah,
Dustin's
absolutely.
a phenomenal fighter who kind of like Stephen Thompson in a lot of ways has gotten better as time has gone on and improved and really kind of developed the game. And I think this is a real possibility of being a very similar to Gilbert Burns. If Dustin can get a takedown, drag him down, wear him out a little bit. He's a black belt, who loves the guillotine. Like if he can do some of that stuff, and then take that into that third round and come in there a little bit fresher, I think you have a real shot of him coming out on top of this. Now, from a kickboxing standpoint, is if you're Charles Oliveira, who are you watching for this fight? Because if I'm Charles Oliveira, my paycheck says I want to fight Conor.
Exactly.
Because as a defending champion, you get some little bit of share of the pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
But my head says Poirier is a way better matchup for Charles Oliveira than Conor is.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at what Michael Chandler did.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. I mean, look at what Michael Chandler did. Michael Chandler is a fast starter, kind of like a Conor. He likes to come out there and pressure from the beginning. And listen, when you have Michael Chandler's cardio, it makes sense. You want to wear that other person down. And if it wasn't for just him if it wasn't for Charles Oliveira just landing a shot, like one of those wild shots that, it was just one of those moments, Michael Chandler had him dead to right.
Yep.
I mean, he was screwed. And Conor's the very same way.
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira is a slow starter as well. And a guy like Conor is a nightmare for him. Someone that's going to come in and just piece him apart. Let's put it this way. If Chandler was able to piece him apart with his fists, Conor McGregor's the best striker. Me personally, the best striker in that division by a large margin. One of the best shot, counter punchers that I've ever seen. I think Conor would destroy him.
Yeah, I think if you're Charles Oliveira, you're watching us going, my paycheck says I want Conor.
Yeah.
But if I want to defend this belt for a while, Dustin's a much better shot.
So my final prediction, or I'll kind of walk out what I think is going to happen.
It's super interesting. We'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, my final predictions on what's going to kind of to come to fruition Saturday night. I do believe Conor McGregor gets the job done. At this point, I've ridden Conor's nuts. We've said this, I can't tell you how many times. I'm not going to get off of it now. Until this man literally breaks his legs in half or never fights again, I'm riding with Conor until I die. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think Dustin Poirier understands the kick's not going to be there, so he's not going to be pressuring as hard with the kicks. I believe he's going to try and get a lot of takedowns, a lot of shoots. Here's the deal. People underestimate how good Conor McGregor's takedown defense really is. And the fact that he was able to go, 3 rounds with Khabib or whatever it is, like arguably the greatest wrestler of all time in the MMA, Conor McGregor, and even in their first fight, what he did something that was so smart. Dustin went for the shoot, took him down. Conor slid all the way back to the fence. He was up in a matter of no time. So I believe that if that's the case, if all Dustin Poirier is focusing on is trying to get the takedowns and the wear downs, I just believe Conor McGregor's takedown defense is going to be too good. And if that's the case, Dustin's going to wear himself out, which is going to leave him very vulnerable. Listen, Dustin likes to open it up and throw those, I call them 50-50 shots. One of those where if this lands, it's game over. If it doesn't land, I'm going to get rocked. And we saw that happen several times in Dustin's career. So I believe he tries to wear Conor down, but I believe that's actually a backfire this time. I'm going to go Conor McGregor within the second round. I say early second round, Conor McGregor gets it done. I believe Dustin's coming into this with a, I'm not going to say the wrong mindset because I don't believe it's the wrong mindset, but I believe he's coming in with the wrong plan. I feel in my heart of hearts that he's going to come in there and just try and wear Conor down. And the problem is when you go in there to try and wear somebody down, not take someone down and, and knock someone out, I believe that you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's just my prediction. Now to you.
I think that it's all about Conor mindset. If he was looking for a paycheck, he could make more money fighting freaking Ryan Garcia.
Or hell, Nate Diaz
he
3,
could
right?
go box whatever up and comer is coming. Nate Diaz 3, well, that fight's always gonna be there.
Yeah, 100%.
That's gonna be there forever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be 75 years old and we're talking about Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor 3. But I think if he comes into this with that mindset, that killer mindset that looks like he has right now,
yeah,
I think there's a good chance that he comes out with. Now, if you are looking to make things a little interesting, he is a slight underdog. So the chance of making money on a Conor McGregor fight has not been there in a very long time.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you that he is not an underdog by the time the bell rings. So get in there early. Yeah. Now, I think Poirier is a phenomenal dude.
Mm-hmm.
Got the greatest shot in the world.
Yeah.
McGregor in 2.
Yeah.
McGregor in 2, TKO.
Same. I think, like you said, the last fight seemed like it was a little bit of a fluke. That calf kick's not going to be there for another, 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Conor's going to be a lot more loose on the feet because that's what he's been training, and especially a lot of his videos. He went back to more of his karate stance where he's not super heavy on that front leg like his southpaw. He's very much more fluid, which is when Conor's at his best, when he's not leaning forward, just trying to punch. He's taken I'm really hoping from what I've seen in training, he's taken, I would say, 30% of boxing away. Let's not get it wrong.
Yeah.
He is one of the best strikers and boxers in the entire MMA community. He always has been a great puncher. But if you take 30% of that away and then put in some movement, put in some kicks, I believe that we're going to see a lot more dominant Conor McGregor. And I think it's going to shock a lot of people. And this whole division, listen, this is probably the most stacked division in all of the MMA, to be honest.
Sure.
It's just stupid. You got Michael Chandler, who's getting ready to probably fight Justin Gaethje from what we're hearing. I mean, when you're going 5 and 6 guys deep in this division, you have a great division. And I'm very excited to see the future of this. I believe Conor McGregor will dominate in 2. And I believe we're going to see Conor McGregor with a belt very soon.
I think that is a bold prediction. I think if he wins on Saturday.
Yeah.
That fight with Charles Oliveira will happen before the year's over.
I believe it's going to be
that'll be like a
fight. Yes.
November, December.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I was thinking. 100%.
Oh. There are a lot, there's so many fights on this card that can curse up to something. You have the McGregor Poirier, you got Burns and Thompson, O'Malley with, he can fight anyone, Cheeto, Very Garbrandt, all these guys that took a couple losses. It would be, this card can lead to so many different things, and it is stacked.
Well, I was just thinking about
all the way down.
I was about to say the undercard, there's a couple of ones that I'm not a big fan about. And there's always going to be that with the UFC because they've got to fill fight spots. But you've got like Jennifer Maia and Jessica Ai, and other ones that we've talked about on the show. Ryan Hall. I forgot about Ryan Hall fighting on the undercard. I mean, that's an 8-1 dude. That dude's no joke. I'm a big Nico Price fan. I don't know why. I find his social media just to be kind of funny, but I think it's meant to be serious. One of those guys. So I like Nico Price.
But if you watched Michael, you watched a lot of Michael Pereira fights?
No, I don't know that I have.
His back flipping everywhere. backflipping everywhere. I mean, he's definitely calmed it down since he's gotten to the UFC.
Yeah.
But like, coming to the ring, breakdancing,
Oh, I'm
like
in. I'm in.
it's insane. It'll at least be a show. It'll be a show. Like,
Listen, I'm a Tony
Ferguson.
Ferguson fan, and so I like the weird and eccentric, and I like people breakdancing. I'm all in. But I'm telling you, if there's ever a fight card to purchase, because the UFC doesn't like illegal streams anymore, guys. If there's ever a fight card to purchase, this is going to be the fight card that you purchase. All right, this is one of the best fight cards of the entire.
And if you're gonna do it, use your Visa card. Visa, hit us up. We're available for sponsorships. So we'll go ahead and put the logo right there. Just let us know. We were trying to plan ahead here,
Yeah.
But this is the one to purchase for sure.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And listen, we are excited to be back. We're going to continue to do these punchers chances just because it's fun for us. I mean, we don't give a damn if you watch or not. We're just joking. Of course, we love you guys watching, but always love coming on and talking some UFC with Steve. And listen, play along on your social media, TLR Podcast 615. Just tag me in your story, on your post, whatever which way you want to do it. Show me your fight card. We're just doing the pay-per-view matches. We're not going to do the undercards because I don't want to have to go through and judge whatever it is, like the 20 fights or whatever. So just doing the pay-per-view events. I'd love to see what you have going on. Listen, it could be just one fight that all you change. If all you change is one fight, you got at least a 50-50 shot to win $25. It's a $25 Visa. I didn't even think about that, Steve. Listen, come on, Visa. We're giving away a $25, right? Yeah, right.
The logo right there.
$25 Visa. The logo can go right here. So Visa, if you want to sponsor us, we're not going to be mad at it. But as always, Steve, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Absolutely. And go Connor. Huh?
Go Connor.
Might
All right, everybody. Until next time, we are out.
We'll see you.